Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. So, one tip that does not help you stay on budget is having other people make your food, which is what I like to do. But today, I wanted to share some tips on how to stay healthy, how to eat healthy foods, and still maintain budget consciousness. So for those of you who know me and for those of you who don't, my name is Kylene Terhune. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I work with my clients through one-on-one services and through online group coaching as well. So I have a new program coming up. It's my signature program. It is how I really think about what everyone should do on their own at home before even thinking about getting functional lab testing, and that's discovering what nutrition works for your body. And so it's called Stop Dieting and Live Your Life, Discover Your Nutrition. And so because that's coming up in February, which I'm super pumped about, I ran a beta version, a practice version in October and November of last year, and so that went really well, and I am just improving it and upgrading it before I launch it in February, so it's going to be even better than the version that they went through, and I'm so excited to offer this. But anyways, if you guys are interested in that, I will put the link to my webinar next week up above and below in the comments, so you can't miss it. But the webinar is 3 steps to discover your nutrition. So if you are struggling with figuring out what foods work for your body and you think you just need a little guidance in that area and you want some support through the process, it's gonna be a super good webinar, and it's gonna have a ton of information, and I'm gonna give away some really cool stuff at the end. So that's gonna be next week, and make sure you register so you get reminded and then you get all the goodies. Okay, so for today, we're gonna talk about 5 steps to sticking, 5 tips, I guess you should say, 5 tips to staying on budget. Hi Molly, hi Josh. So number 1, this is sort of a combo, it could technically be broken apart, but number 1 is plan ahead and stick to the list. This is so important. So I guess a little caveat to this would also be, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. Okay, so or like the video if you're watching this live or replay, if you have gone grocery shopping when you're hungry and you come home with like twice as much food or things that you really did not need, but because you were so hungry, you're like, I'll take this, sounds good. Everything sounds good when you're hungry. So tip number 1 is to definitely plan ahead and stick to the list. So what do I mean by plan ahead? Actually meal plan. What options are you gonna have for breakfast, for snacks, for lunch, for dinner? Yes, Molly, right? It's like, you're not the only one, okay? Everybody does this, everybody does this. It's the same problem if you don't plan ahead, and if you're not talking about grocery shopping, what are you most likely to do? You're most likely to like go out to eat too, and you make bad choices. So in general, we make bad choices when we're really hungry. So planning ahead helps with that. So number 1, plan ahead, stick to list. So do meal plan, and it doesn't have to be specific. Like on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm having oatmeal with raisins and cinnamon in it, but it can be a list, right? Like, here are 2 or 3 options that I'm gonna, hi Sherry, here are 2, 3 options that I'm gonna have for breakfast. Here are 2, 3 options I'm going to have in my house for snacks, for lunch. And then I usually like to plan, specific dinners out so that I have all the ingredients and it's different. But for breakfast, lunch, and snacks, you can just sort of have like, a few options and know what they are. So anyways, plan ahead what those things should be, what you want to have in the house. Hi Tanda. And stick to the list when you go grocery shopping. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, and this is one that might be super easy for some and super hard for others. Make your own food. Like I said at the beginning, I like to have other people make my food too. So a friend of mine is really talented, and also I will post her link below this video too. So if you get really busy and you need food delivered to your door on a Tuesday, she does that. She makes these amazing dinners. She tells you what they are in advance, so you can choose if it's food that works for you guys, and you can order it, and then she will drive it to your door. So if you're in the Dayton, Centerville area, It's a really cool option. But anyways, the cheapest way to stay on budget and more affordable than having other people make your food is to make your own food. So the more we go out to eat, or the more we have delegate the service to other people, the more expensive it's going to be. And I'm not saying don't do that, but if you are really wanting to stay on budget, make all your food. So that's one of the things that will save you a ton of money, is to make everything. So here's a really, really good example of that. Instead of buying a $5 salad, why don't you buy a $2.99 thing of spinach and kale and a couple other vegetables and maybe some tuna packets and make your own. And I guarantee you that daily salad is going to be less than $5.99. I have to plug my phone in or it's going to die. There we go. All right, sorry about that. So that's one example of how making your own food can save you a lot of money right there. So number one is plan ahead and stick to the list. And number two is make your own food. So if you think that that's super daunting, make it so simple. Don't do these grandiose things. Keep it super simple. Be like, I'm gonna have a protein, I'm gonna have a vegetable, and I'm gonna maybe have like a sweet potato next to that or some fruit. Okay, so keep it super simple. Spices literally are the spice of life. That's what can shake up a meal. And then in terms of planning ahead and making your own food, make sure you do a lot of it on the weekend. So whether that means chopping your vegetables or just making sure that they're meals that are very easy to put together for a busy week, just making sure you have that plan in line. So eating healthy, sticking on a budget, and making it happen when you're busy does not have to mean that you're spending hours and hours and hours in the kitchen. I do not do that. I do not do that. Let me repeat it one more time. I do not do that. So it is possible, I promise. So I like to really whip things up together very, very quickly, and they're all very, very yummy too. All right, so number one, plan ahead and stick to the list. Number two, make your own food. Number three is stick to the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So EWG, the Environmental Working Group, puts out an updated list every year of the cleanest vegetables and the dirtiest vegetables, meaning the ones that are the priority to buy organic and the ones that are less of a priority. So for example, a lot of times what you're gonna see be a common thing on the list is like if it has a really thick skin, and it's not, the pesticides are maybe not going to actually get into the food part that you're eating. That may be part of the Clean 15. But if pesticides are sprayed directly onto whatever part of the food that you're eating, and it's a heavily pesticized food, and they know that in the farming practices, and that's probably going to be on the Dirty Dozen, and they're going to ask you to buy organic so that you're avoiding all those extra chemicals. So if you are trying to eat healthy on a budget and you want to know which vegetables and fruits are the most important to buy organic and which ones you can just buy conventional, use the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So that's one way to eat healthy and still be mindful of a budget. So number one, stick to the list and plan ahead. Number two, make your own food. Number three, use the list, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Number four is utilize bulk and discount stores. So for example, if you use Costco or Sam's, or locally we have a discount grocery store called Aldi's, and so Aldi's oftentimes has a lot of organic and organic foods and gluten-free, and normally the meat is cheaper there, and there's just a lot of options at stores like that. And at Costco and Sam's you can buy bigger things in bulk, and that can be for your meat as well. So a lot of times what I tell people is, like with meat, even vegetables and produce, buy a lot of it and then freeze it. So usually I have a bunch of frozen vegetables. I buy them pre-frozen, but you could buy fresh and freeze them yourself as well, just depending on, is buying the bags cheaper than buying some fresh produce and freezing it yourself? You can kind of figure that stuff out and compare. But I usually have some frozen vegetables in my freezer. I usually have some meat in my freezer. And if I have those two things, I can usually make a dinner even if I don't have a plan. So utilizing discount stores, so maybe if they have a sale or there's a good price on meat or there's a good price on the specific food, just stock up on it and then you can freeze it if it's perishable. So definitely use those big stores and bulk stores and discount stores. So stick to the list, plan ahead, Make your own food, super important. Use the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 and utilize those discount stores. And the last one I'm gonna say, and I don't know if this will be a surprise or not, but raise your hand or comment below. Actually, you can't raise your hand to this because I'm gonna ask you a question. Comment below with a guess of how much, when you leave the grocery store, what percentage of your cart is produce versus what percentage is, boxed, bagged, something other than what you would find in the produce aisle. So they say, shop the perimeter. That's where the fruits and the vegetables and the meats and things like that are. And then the aisles are where you have the boxes, the bags, the cans. So comment below with what you think your best guesstimate of what percentage your cart is produce and what percentage is the rest of it. Because what I'm going to ask you to do for step 5, and believe it or not, this has to do with sticking to a budget, is shop 70% produce. So a lot of people complain that eating healthy and eating organic is more expensive. But typically what I find is that if you stick to the produce section and you're actually truly eating whole foods, that stuff is cheap, like super cheap, compared to when you're getting things that pay for packaging and pay for processing and all this extra stuff that you find in the middle. So yeah, that's cheap too, depending on what brands you get and what you're eating, but it's also junk food. So even if the price is comparable, this is a healthier choice. And a lot of times, what you find when you're making a healthy change is if you suddenly start adding organic to everything else that you regularly buy, meaning I'm going to start buying these organic vegetables, or I'm going to start buying more vegetables, organic or not, and I'm still buying the chips, I'm still buying the ice cream, I'm still buying all this junk food and all the snacky stuff that I like from the middle of the grocery store. When you combine the two, yes, your price goes through the roof. So if you are like, I'm just gonna buy all this extra stuff for me, but I'm gonna keep, the junk food or the habit food for the rest of my family, or whatever it is in your situation, that budget is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you actually transition to 70% of your cart being produce, you're probably either going to break even or actually save money. And so that's one of the biggest differences I found is it's not necessarily going regular food to gluten-free processed food and paleo processed food and all this kind of stuff. It's going from regular food to actual whole food, buying mostly produce in your grocery cart, and that is going to save you a lot of money. Even if you buy some organic and splurge on the higher quality meats, the grass-fed, the pasture-raised, all that kind of good stuff. So those are my 5 tips to how to eat healthy and stick to a budget. Stick to the list and plan ahead. Make your own food. Use the Dirty Dozen Clean 15. Utilize bulk stores and discount stores, and shop and make your cart 70% produce. And that's going to really help your budget stay on track. So I hope that this was helpful. I'd love to see if you have any questions below. Don't forget to join me for the webinar next week, where I'm going to share all the details on how you can discover your personal nutrition. I'm really excited. I put a lot of effort into the webinar. It's going to be really good, and I'm super pumped for the end of it. So make sure you register by clicking the link above or the link below. Bye.